This year in 2016, we're launching a EU for Human Rights campaign. And this year is a particular year for human rights. We're celebrating 10 years of the UN Human Rights Council. We're celebrating 50 years of the International Covenant on Political and Civil Rights. And in the EU, we're launching a new EU global strategy for our foreign and security policy. And the strategy in particular mentions that the EU should do more to promote human rights globally. So the launch of this campaign is part of our efforts to show how we're promoting in the different countries human rights as EU and together with the EU member states. So human rights is an important part of our bilateral dialogue with Jordan. And actually this year, Jordan has launched a national plan for human rights for the period 2016-2025. And we are discussing this in our dialogue with them. We have a human rights dialogue that looks at how human rights are implemented in the country. At the same time, as part of the review of the European neighbourhood policy, we have identified together with Jordan a number of partnership priorities. And human rights is part of one of these priorities. And therefore, this is something that has been identified as an area of bilateral dialogue this year by us together with our Jordanian counterparts. At the same time, we work on this not only politically but also operationally. And in Jordan, we have launched a number of projects with our European Instrument for Democracy and Human Rights, and we are providing funding to human rights defenders and NGOs working in this country, which are promoting human rights in Jordan. We have identified 5 priorities in the area of human rights on which we're going to have our dialogue with Jordan. The first one is freedom of expression and freedom of opinion. The second one is the rule of law and the prevention of ill treatment and torture. The third one is death penalty. The fourth one is women's rights and gender. And the fifth and final one is freedom of association, freedom of assembly and civil society. Human dignity, equality, freedom, democracy and the protection of human rights are values that are embedded in the EU treaties, and they guide both our external and our internal policies. Now, we believe that sustainable democracy and peace cannot be delivered without the protection of human rights. And that is why human rights are at the center of our policies and are an anchor in the new EU global strategy on foreign policy and security that we have adopted in 2016.
Let me start by saying that human rights is for the Netherlands a very central theme in our foreign policy. So in many countries around the world we're active in this field. I've been here 3 years in Jordan, so I've seen some improvement. I was very impressed that from the start I've seen in the legal institutions many women. I think 90 to 20% of the judges in Jordan are female, which I think is a very positive development. I've also seen that there are some challenges still, for example in the definitions of certain crimes, conduct under the anti-terrorism law. I think there could perhaps be a better definition to avoid that the very legitimate fight against terrorism, which we all support, will at the same time lead to a curtailing of personal and social freedoms. I don't think that's the idea. So that's a question of very well defining what is a crime and what is not, which is easy to say and sometimes difficult to do. I very much appreciate the debate which is now going on in this country on an article like Article 308 on the penal code, which we think is not entirely up to the standards of equal opportunities for men and women. So, but there is a very lively debate in this country among Jordanians, as it should be, and we support that. Same is true for a lively debate which took place some while ago, but I think is still very much alive on the issue of nationality. The moment you start debating a problem, you start perhaps solving it. If you don't debate it and just accept it as or don't accept it as either it's a given thing or treat it as a kind of taboo, it is very difficult to change anything, of course. But let me stress very much that we are very much of the opinion that if we talk about things like human rights, if we talk about things like democratic participation of women, youth, all branches of Jordanian society, it's a Jordanian thing. You have to do the job. We can help. We can show you how we have done it in the Netherlands. You can learn from our experiences. You can learn from our mistakes. But it's your responsibility. You are responsible for this country. It's your country.